Hey foodies, and welcome back to Cooking with Kiana. Today I'm going to be sharing my delicious chili recipe with you guys. It's so simple but packed with tons of flavor, you'd be surprised at how easy it is to make. It's just the perfect blend of meaty richness and warming spices, and I mean, who doesn't love comfort food? This recipe will easily become a staple in your household. But enough talking, let's go ahead and get right into it so I can show you guys how it's done. Now let's get started. Alright guys, so here are all the ingredients that we're going to be using for this recipe. You can also check the description box below. I will have a list of ingredients plus the recipe listed there, so you guys can go ahead and check that out. So for this recipe, you'll need a half a cup of celery and 6 cloves of garlic chopped finely, 1 large onion and 1 bell pepper, make sure those are diced as well, 3 tablespoons of Worcestershire sauce and 2 cups of beef broth, or you can substitute that for chicken broth. 1 tablespoon of brown sugar, but if you're like me and you don't have brown sugar, go ahead and substitute that for white sugar. And here are all the spices that I'm going to be using for this recipe. This is the part you don't want to skip. This is what's going to give your recipe flavor. I'm going to be using 2 teaspoons of onion powder, 2 teaspoons of garlic powder, a half a teaspoon of ground cumin, 1 teaspoon of oregano, 1 tablespoon of chili powder, 1 tablespoon of smoked paprika, 2 teaspoons of crushed red pepper, 1 teaspoon of black pepper, 2 teaspoons of complete seasoning, 1 teaspoon of Lawrys seasoning salt, and 2 teaspoons of cayenne pepper. And if you're someone that's really spice sensitive, you can go ahead and cut back on that cayenne pepper. I'm also going to be adding 1 28-ounce can of diced tomato. For added flavor, use the fire roasted tomatoes, 2 cans of black chili beans, and 2 pounds of ground beef. So let's begin by sauteing our veggies. Add a generous amount of oil to your pan and follow that up with your onions, your bell peppers, and your celery. Go ahead and give that a good stir for about 3 minutes or until those veggies have softened up a bit. Once those have softened up, we can go ahead and add in our garlic. You want to make sure you add in your garlic last because that will burn first. Go ahead and give the garlic a good stir so it can soften up a bit just like the onions and peppers did. This should take you less than a minute. Now once all those veggies are softened, which is very important to encourage maximum flavor, you want to go ahead and add in your ground beef. Even though I'm going to be cooking this in the crock pot, it is so important to brown your beef first. It just makes it so much more flavorful and it amps up the savoriness in this dish. Use a spatula to break up the ground beef, and while that ground beef is halfway cooked, I'm going to mix together all of my spices and add those in. Now go ahead and break that up and really mix those seasonings in together so they can really marry into each other, and let those spices toast and all those natural oils and flavors so it could just bloom and all of those spices can really come alive. Now add 3 tablespoons of Worcestershire sauce and go ahead and give that a good stir so you can transfer it into your crock pot. And everything after this will be super easy, okay? You can literally, after this part, you can go to work, come home, and it'll be done. So let's move on to adding everything into our crock pot. I'm going to make sure my crock pot is on low, and then I'm going to go ahead and toss in my ground beef. Now adding your diced tomatoes, and make sure you drain it first. Follow that up with 2 cans of chili beans, and make sure you do not drain that because it is already in a chili sauce. Next, add in 2 cups of chicken broth or beef broth. Now go ahead and stir it all together. Notice I'm not going to add any more seasoning right now because once this simmers down, you are going to taste all the flavors. So go ahead and give that a good stir so all those flavors can marry into each other. Then I'm going to add in a tablespoon of sugar. If you have brown sugar, use that instead. And don't worry about the sugar. This is just to balance everything out. Cover that with a lid and let that simmer for 6 to 8 hours, depending on how thick you like your chili. If you like your chili a little bit on the thicker side, let it simmer for 8 hours. Once you open up that lid, you're going to get hit with all these different spices and aromas. It's just going to smell so good. So I only let mine cook for 6 hours because I was in a rush, but for all my thick chili lovers, make sure you cook yours for 8 hours so you can get that thick, creamy consistency. Either way, it's just so delicious. You taste all the different spices and flavors. especially since it's just been sitting in the crock pot absorbing all those flavors. I'm telling you guys, low and slow is the way to go, especially when it comes to chili. You can serve this up plain and just have a nice hearty bowl of chili, or you can serve it with tortilla chips, avocado, and cilantro. But I like to keep it real simple and just serve it with some cheddar cheese and sour cream. If I had some green onions, I would add that on top as well, but I don't, so I'm just gonna make it cute and add a little bit of parsley. And I love to pair this with a slice of cornbread. It's just the ultimate comfort food. I hope you guys all enjoyed this recipe. If you did, you can find the full recipe in the description box below. Make sure you leave a like and comment down below letting me know how the recipe turned out. And subscribe so you don't miss weekly recipes. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.